From the Figure 4 Online Studios in beautiful Bothell, Washington, exclusively at WrestlingObserver.com, you're listening to the Bryan and Vinny Show with your hosts, Bryan Alvarez and Big Vinny V.
All right, everybody, it's the Bryan and Vinny Show here. It's Thursday, October 17, 2019, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. Got all sorts of things to talk about here. The NXT show and the AEW show here on Thursday. Everybody ready?
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
All right, just making sure. Because nothing's been going right today.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I'm just waiting for something to go wrong. Ken to sit here and tell me nothing's working, no audio, no video. What could go wrong next is my question. All right, let's go.
WWE NXT, October 16th, 2019. Tommaso Ciampa versus Angel Garza in the opener. So this is Ciampa's first match back since his neck injury, obviously, and also his first match back as a babyface in years. I was curious to see how it would play out. How this guy who'd, and his character was Evil, the capital E, for years. And so it turns out babyface Tommaso Ciampa is just your mini Steve Austin. Wrestled the same, acted the same, didn't do a middle finger or a stunner, but did stomp a mud hole in the guy and walk it dry. And then stomped a mud hole in his flag and walked it dry. And he threw him outside, and as he was crawling back in, caught him with a draping DDT for the win. A good squash this was.
Hey, I was happy that they basically went in there and had Tommaso Ciampa make his big return and squash Angel Garza. We had someone else who made their return on this show, and she did not get to come back and win a squash. She had to go back and forth with somebody before winning.
Yes.
I don't know why they do that, but they did everything right here.
They do a lot with people making their returns and their debuts.
I have no earthly idea how Tommaso Ciampa is back 5 months early, but he physically looked fine.
Yes.
He wrestled fine.
Yes.
Like, everything was great.
I hope everything is truly great.
Well, I don't think they'd let him back if he wasn't ready. In fact, I know they wouldn't. They wouldn't let him wrestle one last takeover match,
right,
which had been built up for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So if he was not cleared, if they didn't think he was good to go, he wouldn't be back. So I don't know what it is. Stem cell therapy in Colombia? That's what everyone's doing lately.
All right.
I don't know if he's doing it, but there you go.
Well, he gets his win, but then as he is celebrating, out comes the Undisputed Era to semi-confront him. Roderick Strong, conspicuously wearing the Velveteen Dream sunglasses, and Kyle O'Reilly goes up to the announce desk, tosses them a USB, and then they all just leave.
He couldn't Dropbox it to him. Still using a USB drive in 2019.
Well, he can't make a big show.
That's a big USB drive, by the way, because that was a long video in HD.
You can't make a big show, Brian, of walking over to the announce desk and saying, "Hey, check your Dropbox."
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
Point it out to the screen.
I sent you a link, Morrow. I want it up there.
I see. Well, it worked. His method worked, Brian.
Hey, and you know what? I got one more big positive to say about that Tommaso Ciampa match. Nobody laid on the mat in a hold.
That's true.
And they also didn't go to commercial during this match.
That's also true.
So 2 big thumbs up for all of this. Except for the USB drive.
Thumbs down for USB drives.
Yeah, come on. It's 2019. It's ridiculous.
Well, regardless, it worked, as after the break, we saw the video the Undisputed Era had placed on a USB drive and passed to Mauro Ranallo. So they have killed the Velveteen Dream. You didn't see the beating itself, but he's lying prone in a laundry hamper, it appeared.
You know what's bizarre about this video? They came out after the Tommaso Ciampa match. He sat in a chair with his crutch. They heckled him, and then they produced the USB drive. So I thought for sure it would be something involving Tommaso Ciampa.
Yes.
But instead, it's just totally random. I mean, it's not random because they beat up Velveteen Dream to prevent the United States Championship match next week, or the North American title. But I still don't know why they came out during Ciampa's segment.
Because he was the opener. And because Adam Cole just wants to remind Ciampa that he has friends.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, yes, it was largely.
I mean, I don't have a big problem with it. I was just confused.
Well, those are the reasons. But mostly it's just he was the opener, and they wanted to start the show this way. So yes, they have laid out Velveteen Dream. He's unconscious. They talk some smack, and then Roddy stomps on his sunglasses. So I'm not sure where he got the ones he was wearing then, 10 minutes later.
Probably the same store that Velveteen got his cheap sunglasses.
That could be.
Yeah, they're in Florida.
And here's your tie-in. That's actually a great point. But here's your tie-in, Brian, because Adam Cole says, let this be a warning to Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa if you get in our way. So that explains the timing.
Well, Velveteen Dream apparently has some sort of injury. I don't know what it is. I heard he's been hurt. They announced he would be gone for a long time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like it's just some sort of angle. They promoted this match forever. So yeah, that's the story. That sucks.
It does suck. Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch versus Imperium. I love Imperium.
They're great.
Their entrance is the best entrance ever, and it's just standing and walking, but it's synchronized. It's great.
It's right up there with those Russian assassins, their entrance.
In a way.
Yes.
In its own way.
There's a tie-in here. They both have the
orchestral music.
Orchestral, military.
It's like a march, yes.
Yes, the march. It's great.
Yes. So they're doing this tag match, and Oney Lorcan gets the hot tag, and he is just perpetual motion. He is a lunatic running back and forth, laying out everyone he can find. Now, the problem is, after his comeback, the match continued, and everyone kept moving the same speed. And you have 4 guys going that fast. I found it very hard to keep up with what was going on. A bunch of stuff happened, and Imperium won with an elevated forearm.
So there was a commercial during this match, and the good news is all of the laying on the mat in holds was during the break. We didn't actually have to watch it. Now, I actually should have taken better notes because I didn't even think about it at the time, but I'm not sure there was any match on AEW that went through a commercial break. Was there?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. They did have a lot of...
it certainly wasn't every single match.
It was not every single match, and if they did, they had a lot of the commercial picture-in-picture breaks.
Okay, I think there was...
There's a lot of those in AEW.
All right, so maybe they did go through commercials, but it's for some reason it's just not as irritating as it is with WWE. I don't even know why. Maybe because it's so patterned in WWE that you know when it's going to happen.
That is the biggest thing, I think, because he is...
Plus, you miss so much of the match in WWE. I don't feel like I miss a bunch of the match on AEW. You know what it is? It's because in AEW, they go to the match during the heat.
Yes.
So, like, you see what happens to get the heat, and then as they're getting the heat, there's a commercial. They come back, there's still heat,
yes.
And then the guy makes the comeback.
Yes.
I don't miss any of the ups and downs of the match.
Yes.
In WWE, it's like a guy will hit a dive, they'll go to commercial, they'll come back, he's getting beaten on, and I'm like, what happened? What did I miss?
You make an excellent point. You're not alone.
And also, there was a tope by Bartel where his foot got caught on the ropes, which could have been a tragedy, but thankfully he was okay.
Had a Johnny Gargano hype video.
Did we talk about the finish?
I said Imperium won with an elevated forearm.
All right.
Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. A Johnny Gargano hype video. Both shows need to be doing a lot more of this kind of stuff. Introduce new fans to your biggest stars. So this is lots of stuff with his start with the company, all his whole run with Ciampa as a partner and then as an enemy, and then all the titles he won. And then earlier today, Kathy interviews Johnny, asks him how he feels about Ciampa's big return. And Johnny says, honestly, I don't know how I feel. I won't know till I see him face to face. Dominic Dijakovic warms up. Io Shirai versus Caden Carter. Caden is magically from the Philippine Islands now.
Yeah.
I think that's new. I guess
they change everyone's name at random. Yes. They change their location. They change whatever.
So as much as you talked about how there were no holds on the show, these gals came out after that tag match where the finish was moving 100 miles an hour, and they came out and they're working 100 miles an hour.
Great.
I was begging for an armbar and a chance to catch my breath.
No, I was fine with this.
They go bonk. Io hit a German suplex and a moonsault for the win. This was an 8-minute match performed in 2 minutes.
Great. Got Io over. It was all action.
It certainly was all action.
If they would have done a 3-minute match and 2 minutes of it were laying in a hold, you'd be complaining right now.
That's fair.
So they got in there, they got out, they were quick.
There's got to be happy medium, man.
They got Io
over.
Do a
3-minute match in 3 minutes.
It was good.
Then Io does a promo. She's calling out Shayna when Rhea Ripley interrupts. And Rhea says she will put Bianca in her place next week, but if Io ever spits her name again, she'll shut her up too. And Io seemed scared at first because Rhea's big, but then she started to smile and started jibber-jabbering in Japanese. They kind of circled each other for a bit, and finally Io ran away.
Rhea is such a star.
Yeah.
All I could think watching this, she's such a star. She needs to beat Shayna. She needs to be the next champion. She's great.
We get a Boa promo.
This poor guy. So he's cutting this promo, I presume in Chinese.
I presume on Killian Dane, yes.
And I presume on Killian Dane. But anyway, all the friendly fans at Full Sail just give him the what treatment.
Yeah.
And granted, they didn't know what he was saying, but that's not very nice. Let the guy do his promo and just don't be rude.
Kathy interviews William Regal. She asks for a medical update on Velveteen Dream. Regal is very upset. Says Dream will not be able to compete next week, perhaps not for quite a while. But Roderick Strong is still going to defend his North American title next week. He will defend it against the Keith Lee Dominik Dijakovic winner. And so we get Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic. We get a picture-in-picture commercial break. The match had just started. That really irritated me.
Yeah, it was like a minute in, they went to commercial.
Yes, that's why the commercial breaks on NXT bother you, because they're timed in such a way that if this was a real sport, there would be no way to avoid the commercial. AEW, they give you 5 minutes of a match, and it's like, well, we got to do a commercial break now. So there was a lot of amazing stuff in this match. Dijakovic somehow turned a power slam into a choke slam, which was awesome. We have a flying top rope splash to the arm by Keith Lee. We have a suplex spot where Keith has... Basically, Dijakovic was in midair for a minute as Keith has held him aloft trying to get him over this move. Had a reverse Hurricane Rana by Keith Lee, which is just ridiculous. And then Roderick Strong attacked for the lame DQ. So
yeah.
As much cool stuff in there
sucked.
As there was in this match. First of all, also the crowd started chanting "This is awesome" before they actually did anything awesome. They started chanting "This is awesome" at a point that was decidedly not awesome. That irritated me. They did a bunch of cool stuff, and then we got nothing even close to resembling a finish. That was irritating. And then Regal announces a three-way, which means, yes, there's a title on the line, but they're doing Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic again.
Well, in their defense, Velveteen got hurt, and so they needed to come up with something else. And this is what they came up with.
Why don't they have one of these guys win,
well,
and then do that guy one-on-one against Rod? My point, Brian, is I'm tired of watching Keith Lee wrestle Dominik Dijakovic. I want to see the two of them wrestle other people.
My issue with this is that regardless of what actually happened to Velveteen Dream, as a viewer, in a 30-minute span, there were two matches that had been promoted for weeks. Lee versus Dijakovic and Roderick Strong versus Velveteen Dream. And in the span of 30 minutes, they screwed us out of both of them.
That's true.
That was my bigger issue.
That's true, too.
I know that things happened. I know that you had to change some things around. But as a viewer, that's all you can think. Well, we're not getting this match that they've been promoting for weeks with Velveteen. And now this other match they've been promoting for weeks, they didn't even give us a finish so that they could do a different match next week with three guys. Which I don't really think we need three guys in this match. I mean, two of them are gigantic, and Roderick Strong is going to be Marco Stunt size compared to these two guys in the match next week. I mean, I presume he sneaks out because they cost each other the match, and then they do another match.
God.
Like, you know that's what's coming here.
I do.
It's overkill.
Yes. That's the point I've been making. So during the commercial break, Undisputed Era hunts for William Regal, and they find him, but he just shuns them, has nothing to say. Matt Riddle versus Bronson Reed.
Dude, I love this. This is what I want on this show. It went like 5 minutes. It wasn't like a total squash. They gave Bronson Reed some stuff, like his coolest stuff. Matt Riddle sold a little bit, but then made a big comeback. Got to display how powerful he is.
That's for sure.
And he is very powerful. And he got the clean win, and the place loved it, and they fist bumped afterwards, and everybody was happy. This may have been my favorite thing on the show.
When this was done, I thought that was a really great finishing stretch to a 15-minute match. Where's the other 12 minutes?
Wasn't there?
We skipped the beginning and the middle of this match and jumped into the end, which is the best part. So if you're going to skip anything, if you're going to only show anything, it should be the end. But it was weird. Athletically, yes. Ridiculously spectacular. Matt Riddle is one of a kind. Also, he won with something called the Bro Derek.
Yes.
I didn't write down what it actually was, but that is the name of the move.
They're looking, it appears, to do more highlight reel stuff. Like have one big long match on the show. This week it was the Punishment Martinez match. And then the rest of the show, it's like a bunch of highlight reel matches. Like Matt Riddle and Bronson Reed, they could have gone 15 minutes and had a really great match. Instead, we got to do a highlight reel. Io Shirai could have gone probably, 9 minutes with Kane Carter.
Longer than she went.
But they had to do a highlight reel.
Yes.
And there's a lot of highlight reel stuff on the show, which I think in their mind is, well, if we give people bam, 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 they're not going to switch the channel. But the big thing when I look at the ratings to me is, people aren't switching the channel back and forth.
Yes.
They're just not doing that.
There's not much overlap.
There's an AEW audience.
Yes.
And there's an NXT audience. And there are AEW fans that watch NXT afterwards. And there are NXT fans that probably watch AEW afterwards. But the idea that this is like the 90s and there's this huge audience that's switching back and forth all night, that's not happening.
Right.
So just do your show.
Just put on a good show.
Just do your show. It doesn't have to be designed for people not to switch channels. It certainly doesn't have to have an overrun.
No.
I was told no overruns, and then, of course, two straight weeks we've had overruns afterwards. You don't need the overrun. But yeah, I mean, I sound like I'm very critical of this show, but I really like this show. But I see things on both shows where, especially this show, just do your show.
There are things that both shows are doing wrong or could be doing a better job of. And this is a big one for NXT. The pacing feels weird for the whole show.
And for people to think I'm biased, of the two shows, my biggest issue of the entire night was AEW having 0 clips from AEW Dark. Like, I can't even wrap
good point, actually.
I cannot wrap my head around the fact that you have a 2-hour show on TNT and you send out Kenny Omega and Joey Janela and they frickin' kill each other, and there's not a second of it on the AEW show. Of all my problems with both shows, that's my biggest problem.
We have a Bianca Belair hype video. She notes that Rhea wants Shayna, but she also wants Shayna, and Rhea is going to have to go through her.
Dude, I watched this and I just thought, Bianca Belair is a superstar. She's a superstar. She has so much personality, and she has so much charisma, and she's kind of green, but she's pretty good in the ring.
She's the best athlete they have.
And she's largely running in place.
Yes.
I'm watching, Britt Baker, who's maybe had 100 matches in her career. She's in there with the champion on AEW. They're trying to push her to the moon. And, Marco Stunt's out there. They're trying to make a star out of him. They're trying to make a star out of Darby Allin. Like, Bianca has more experience, I think, than all of those people I just mentioned. She's just running on a treadmill here.
I like Shayna more than a lot of people, but yes, this women's division is very stale. For as much talent as they have, their women's division is much deeper than the AEW women's division, but it's stale. It's very stale. Getting medical update. Kushida suffered a hairline fracture in his wrist. The match against Walter last week. That sucks. Tainara versus Tegan Nox. So Tainara actually gets to use a bunch of judo this week, which it seems like she never does. They had a short little TV match, and Nox made her comeback and won with her finishing move, which she has torn up her knees. So she has,
oh my God.
So she has big, giant chrome braces on.
Yes.
And so when she runs across the ring and hits the flying knee strike to the head, it's called the shiniest wizard.
Well, it was called that before the knee braces, Vinny.
Oh, that sucks.
I'm sorry.
That's very disappointing.
Yes, I know what you're getting at, but it was called that before the knee braces.
No.
I'm just
I was
wondering-
going to give an award to that person, whoever thought of that.
I'm just wondering why that's allowed.
To hit someone with a knee brace?
You got the two biggest knee braces I've seen since like the heyday of Steve Austin.
Yes.
And her move is to hit people with this metal brace. That doesn't seem right.
She's the new Cowboy Bob Orton.
Tegan Nox is a superstar in the making. I have no idea why she couldn't just squash Tainara. Especially because she basically did. You know what I'm saying?
3 minutes.
You basically squash her, so why did Tainara get anything? It didn't help. If anything, it just took a little shine off the return of Tegan. Just have her go in there and kill this woman for 3 minutes. Who cares? She's making her big comeback. You're obviously going to push her to the moon. Just have her come back and smash this woman. And then, this is the second week in a row they've done this. Last week, Tommaso Ciampa returned 5 months early from neck surgery. The last time we saw him, he had vacated the NXT Championship. Sarah is there to interview him. The first interview with Tommaso Ciampa when he comes back. And she's about to ask her question. And what's his face? What's his name from the opener? Angel Garza shows up.
Yes.
And Angel Garza cuts a promo in Spanish. And suddenly Sarah just goes, Tommaso, what did he say? Tommaso goes, I don't know. And he walks off. Sarah never even asks the all-important first question when a guy comes back. So fast forward to this week. Sarah Schreiber's out there. She's going to interview Tegan, who, for those of you that don't know, and this is obviously not canon, but Tegan was going to win the Mae Young Classic, and she tore her ACL, and then she's just out. It's her big return. First time we've seen her. Comes back and gets a win. Sarah comes out, and she's about to get her thoughts, and Shayna comes out. Shayna takes the mic. She cuts a promo on Tegan. She says, you're running out of limbs to rehab. That was a great line.
That was a fantastic line.
Tegan screams at her that I want a title shot. Shayna says, you haven't earned one. Call me when you've done something. Shayna leaves, and Sarah never even asks her question. 2 weeks in a row. These are important people.
Tegan did not come off like a star here.
What? How could she?
That's my point, yeah. It's not her fault.
No.
They did nothing to help her out here.
You think I, as a viewer, don't notice that you were going to ask all-important questions to big stars on their return, and then you don't ask? I do notice that.
So my notes here begin, women dress Damian Priest, which I think was the idea, but it's not actually what happened. But Damian Priest is backstage with two women. One of them is like putting on his vest and smiling and admiring his height and his muscles and his frame. The other gal is just standing there deer in the headlights. She never moves. She never reacts. She never shows any expression. She may have been kidnapped. I'm not sure.
There's a lot we don't know about Damian
There's
Priest.
a ton we don't know. Have a Finn Balor hype video.
Oh, man, I hate to do it. People are going to think I just hate this show. But all show they promised a word with Finn Balor. I don't remember how they phrased it. But did you not think that he was going to be there live?
Honestly, I don't remember.
I thought he was going to be there live. They promoted it the entire show that we're going to hear from Finn Balor
That is what they
tonight.
said.
Yes.
They said we will get a statement from Finn Balor or something.
So it's like a 30-second video package.
Yes.
I felt used. This was not good.
I was more concerned with the very corny dialogue they had Finn Balor recite in this video. He has retraced his steps to find his heart, and next week, his future will be his past.
Well, the positive is it wasn't the dumbest thing I heard anybody say all night.
All right.
That's coming up in the next match.
Boa and Killian Dane?
The next match.
Nah.
Sorry.
Well, Boa and Killian Dane was the next match. First thing I noticed was that Boa sells better than most of the roster. And it's a good thing, because he had ample opportunity to sell during the squash match. So Dane kills him and kills him and kills him. That's why they call him Killian. And he does all these Vader bombs. And he's flying through the air and squashes this guy. And it looks
Don't forget the chin locks.
There were some of those too.
There were chin locks.
In a squash.
Killian Dane versus Boa match.
Yeah, you gotta wear Boa down, Brian.
What?
You have to wear Boa down to make him vulnerable to the Vader bomb.
Huh.
So Killian Dane goes to win, and Boa's down on the ground, and Dane stands over him and like, So his new finish is a camel clutch. It's weak.
Kind of. Half camel clutch.
It's like a twisted camel clutch.
Dromedary clutch.
But the visual is that he grabs Boa's face and grinds it into his groin.
I'd quit.
And he wins. I guess I would submit as well quickly, but it's an unfortunate visual. That's the best way I could put it. The main event, the opposite of the opener, Damian Priest versus Pete Dunne. So what was said during this match, Brian, that had you...
When they rang the bell, Beth Phoenix said these words, which I rewound multiple times because I had to make sure that I actually heard her correctly, because I don't want to come on here and be inaccurate.
Accuracy is very important in the world of a critic.
They rang the bell. This was after, by the way, that Dunn and Dane had to stare down on the ramp and Dunn just snapped his fingers and dudes had to hold Killian Dane back. Beth Phoenix actually said, and I quote, "Morrow, don't be fooled by Priest's composure. His ruthless nature is focused on creating an incandescent presence."
I'm so happy I was skipping that part.
Would you like me to repeat that?
No, actually, I don't want you to repeat
I would like to repeat it.
I don't want to repeat it ever again.
"Morrow, don't be fooled by Priest's composure. His ruthless nature is focused on creating an incandescent presence." She said these words on national television.
I'm sick. I am honestly sick by what you have just told me.
That's the exact words that came out of her mouth on commentary.
Well, that's just horrendous.
That was painful to me.
It's just horrendous.
And honest to God, like, I mean, I often just kind of block out what I hear on commentary. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how many weird things were said on this show, but that one stuck out to me.
That's high on the list of weirdest things I've ever heard anyone say on a wrestling show, in a mistranslated film.
Maybe it was a mistranslation.
Maybe Boa wrote it.
I was going to say, and they used Google Translate.
Yes. That would make more sense.
Boa's like, "I got a great line for this match, Beth. Can you read it for me?"
That would make so much more sense than someone actually writing that down and thinking it was a good thing to say on NXT in English.
Hey, the match was really good.
It was good. I couldn't help but think the whole time, I'm watching Damian Priest in this NXT main event. And it's not a knock on Damian Priest, but he's a guy who has done squashes and won Sneak Attack. And there's so many bigger stars who are on this show who are not in the main event. I get, obviously, why you couldn't do Lee and Dijakovic in the main event, but it was weird.
Well, Vinny, one thing about this show is that we see a lot of the same people.
We do.
And clearly what they're trying to do here is create a star in one night. I'll always call him Punishment. He'll always be Punishment to me. But anyway.
There was only one Punishment Martinez. I think there's been 7,000 Damian Priests in movies and wrestling and comic books and probably music.
Sure.
Yeah.
But this was Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is a big star. He rarely loses. And so they put him in there with Punishment Martinez. And Punishment Martinez beat him in the main event. Yep. They're going to do something with the guy. So it's not like WWE where if they did this on the WWE in like a Raw main event, I'd be like, well, Pete Dunne will beat him next week.
Right, yes.
He'll be buried. See, I'm not worried about that here. Clearly, they have a plan for Punishment Martinez, hence his big win in the main event over Pete Dunne. Great!
So yes, they had a fun match. The best part is at the end when they just go all Fry Takayama on each other and just start wailing away. And then they're together in the corner, and as the ref is separating them, Priest sneaks in, hits a ball shot, and then the Reckoning, which I think was the roll of the dice.
Yeah. Everyone's finish.
Yeah. And he won.
I loved that. There's a lot of negatives you can say about fans, but one of the positives with the fans nowadays is if they really like your product, they'll do everything they can to make it better. And the outrage when Punishment punched him in the balls, palpable. I loved it. They were so angry that these guys had basically done a pretty clean match back and forth.
Yes.
I mean, maybe Punishment's supposed to be a heel, but I mean,
he wrestled this match very clean until the very end.
Sure. Yeah. And then one ball shot, and these fans are just outraged that this guy had sunk to these depths to beat Pete Dunne. And he won. Fans were outraged. And that was it. That was the show.
Yeah.
I liked the show. I probably was too hard on it in this review.
I feel the same way. Like if you didn't watch the show and listen to the review I just did, you probably think the show sucked. The show did not suck.
No.
I'm doing a poor job of pointing out the strengths and focusing too much on the negatives, which is
But I mean, the reality, Vinny.
what I do.
The reality is that this show is down to 712,000 viewers. The show is not
Thriving.
blowing people away.
No.
And one of the big reasons to me is Full Sail.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, there are also things on the show that, quite frankly, are too much like things that are done on the main roster. And I think that one of the things that will allow AEW and NXT to be a success is to be as completely different from the WWE main roster as possible.
Amen.
There's so many people turned off to Raw and SmackDown that if they watch NXT and it's in a little tiny building and they hear something about somebody's incandescent whatever, I mean, this is not good. They need to be as different from the main roster as possible. And they're not different enough. And the one thing that is different is this horrible building that they're in. God bless Full Sail.
That is different.
But I watch AEW first every week, and it's just shocking when I go from AEW to Full Sail. It's shocking to me.
It's shocking when you watch them in the other order as well. You go from Full Sail to whatever building this was in Pennsylvania.
And listen, to you people in Full Sail, the crowd was great on this NXT show. They were great. They weren't the annoying fans that chant, "This is awesome" for no reason. I guess you saw one. I mean, I didn't even notice. They were super into the main event, which was a good main event. They weren't dead for anything on the show. Like, you can't ask for a better crowd than this crowd.
They did great.
But I can ask for a better building because it looks so low rent.
I can ask for more crowd, a bigger
after
crowd.
AEW.
Yes. Which brings us, Brian, to AEW Dynamite. Also, October 16th of the year 2019.
Yes.
So
That is correct, Vinny. You're dating.
Right. So SCU comes out, and we're told it's a tag team tournament match. And I remember the confrontation SCU had with the Lucha Brothers. So I write SCU versus Lucha Brothers. And then the Lucha Brothers come out and attack SCU. And I think the match has started. And then it turns out this is not the match. This is just an attack, and that whole confrontation was random. So I can only assume that they've now spoiled their own tournament, and SCU and Lucha Brothers will be the finals. So what happens here, it's Daniels and Kazarian coming out, as Scorpio Sky had promised in his promo. He'd step aside and let the more experienced guys work. And as this beating is going on, Pentagon Jr., and they do call him Pentagon Jr. here, not Penta L0M. Pentagon Jr. grabs Chris Daniels, hits a package pile driver on the ramp.
Yes.
I was watching this. By the time I got to turn it on, more than 12 hours had passed. So had Chris Daniels died here, I certainly would have heard about it. But I thought he was dead.
Well, Vinny, funny you should mention that. Years ago, there was an Undertaker-Hulk Hogan match, and the Undertaker is going to give Hulk Hogan a tombstone. In my brain, I remember it being outside, but it may have been in the ring on the chair. It doesn't matter. But the point is, Hogan's head is like 6 inches away from the mat. And they shot it at the exact wrong angle so that you could see that his head was nowhere near the mat. Hogan, by the way, then claimed that he had a neck injury as a result of this tombstone, and the Undertaker felt bad for years. Can you imagine? Anyway, so I'm watching this here, and Penta gone lifts him up, and the camera is shooting right into Pentagon's crotch, where Chris Daniels' head is.
That is a literal description of what was going on.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So, like, if I'm the director, that's the last shot you want. Get a little bit of an angle, this way, that way, because Daniels' head, you don't want it to hit the ground. And the angle that they had, if it doesn't hit the ramp, you're going to see it. So I'm like, wrong angle, dude. Then he hits him. I'm like, is he dead? His head looked like it went through the ramp.
Yeah.
So I also thought I'd have heard by now if Chris Daniels was dead. So as a journalist, I had to investigate whether Chris Daniels was dead. So the answer that I got was Chris Daniels is not dead.
Oh, good.
Chris Daniels is fine,
Even better.
but his head did smash into the ramp. Now, how he was okay after that, I have no earthly idea. But yes, his head smashed into the metal ramp, but he was fine. But boy, did it look brutal.
So this is one where if I'm in charge of this company, and obviously I am not, if I am watching this on the monitor backstage and I see a package pile driver on the ramp, first of all, if they had come to me beforehand, I would say, no, you're not doing a package pile driver on the ramp. If I see this, I'm outraged. I am furious. I order the guys never do another package pile driver on the ramp. You gotta understand, it's not just that Daniels is falling head first towards the ground. His hands are bound because he's a package pile driver. He was helpless.
Yes. I mean, you're not supposed to hit your head.
Even, I'm sure the idea was that it will only look like he's hitting his head. But all I could think was, what if it had gone wrong?
It kind of did.
What if it had gone really wrong?
Well, yes, that's a concern.
And there's more of this to come. There was some insane shit on Dynamite this week.
Hey, listen, at least when they package pile drove him on the ramp, they brought out a stretcher, a neck brace, doctors, and he was never seen again.
The executive vice president, Young Bucks, and their friend Shima run out to make sure he's still alive and see if they can prevent a fatality on their television show. So yes, the Lucha Brothers are chased off. Scorpio Sky chases them away. They played up this injury. And by the way, this is the first thing on the show. We're 2 minutes in, and they're doing this heavy injury angle. So Daniels is eventually put on the backboard and taken away. The referee is about to call off the match, and Scorpio Sky says, no, let me take his place. The ref says, all right. So Scorpio is not dressed to wrestle, which plays into this. He has his fanny pack. He gets out his tape. He's taping up his wrists to go wrestle in his jeans and sneakers. And then the match is SCU versus Best Friends.
Yeah.
So now,
Tournament match.
Oh, it's a tournament match, but why did the Lucha Brothers even attack them here?
Because they're trying to take out every single team.
Well, that's a good reason. All right. But I was just confused as to what the match was for a long time. So the match begins, and one thing AEW needs to work on, they did a ton of tag matches on the show, and all of them, tags mattered sometimes.
Oh, this tag thing is weird. Like, dudes can be anywhere in the world and get a tag.
We saw guys make tags when both members of the team were on the apron. We saw guys make tags when both members of the team were in the ring.
Yes.
It's very odd. And then in this match, we just saw the Best Friends double team guys for about 5 minutes straight with no tags. And even Jim Ross is like, ref's got to get some of these guys out of the ring, man. So Jim Ross, a lot of times on this show, speaks for me. He is the grouchy old man.
Yes. Hey, listen, here's the thing with AEW. I don't care what your rules are, but I need to know what the rules are. And I want the rules to be consistent.
Yes. Internal logic. You must have internal logic.
If you don't need to hold the tag rope, just tell me that. If you can stand anywhere on the apron and get a hot tag, just tell me that. That's all I ask. And then make it consistent.
So, you talk about annoying This Is Awesome chants. This, and I would rather, this crowd was hot all night, and I would much rather have a hot crowd than a dead crowd. But they begin to chant This Is Awesome during the heat. The Best Friends have cut off Frankie Kazarian because he was also laid out during the attack. They're beating him up for like 10 minutes straight. Nothing is happening, and the crowd starts to chant, This is awesome. That irritated me. So, Scorpio eventually gets a tag and he's running wild. One of his shoes goes flying off because they're not wrestling boots, they're shoes. So he's in there doing stuff with one shoe on. Eventually, he takes off the other shoe and chucks it and everyone cheers. And then someone chucks it back and everyone cheers more. Everyone's doing these wacky indie moves, and Excalibur is calling their wacky indie names, and Tony Schiavone is there to react to these wacky indie moves. It's great. The contrast. I almost said the clash between these announcers. It's not a clash, but there is a strong contrast between these announcers, all three of them, that fits perfectly. Their chemistry is fantastic. And eventually, SCU botch a powerbomb dropkick combo, but it was the win.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a botch, but the reality is it doesn't matter. Everybody thought it was a botch. Yeah. They tried to do a power bomb where when the dude hit the mat, the other guy was going to do a sliding drop kick. Mm-hmm. This move needs to be retired.
Yeah, if listen, if it wasn't botched, then you really need to never do it again, because it looked awful. But they did the finish. This match was very sloppy, and at times it was very messy. But you know what? It was not a cookie-cutter tag match. It was not something I've seen 100 times before, and it was very fun.
I really liked this match.
I did too.
I thought the key to this match was actually how big they got Scorpio Sky over. Scorpio Sky has always been like the third guy in SCU. Like, SCU is all Daniels and Kazarian doing their act, and there's Scorpio Sky, who's a super talented guy. Mm-hmm. So how did they get him over here? Well, they did the angle where Daniels was taken out. Scorpio Sky works in his street clothes, which, like, you know, we've seen that with Baron Corbin and Corporate Kane, and it's stupid. But the difference here is he was in street clothes because he didn't know he was going to wrestle.
Yes.
And then he did a bunch of crazy stuff with no shoes on.
Yes.
And the fans are going crazy chanting, he's got no shoes. Everything that he did, they went crazy for. They win the match. He goes up on the ramp. He's dancing and going like this, and the place is going crazy for this guy. It's like, I have never seen this guy more over than I think he is right now on like a national basis.
Oh,
all
for sure.
because he wrestled without his shoes on.
For sure. I mean,
great.
If it wasn't this, it would be Wrestle Society X. And when he was, what was he doing in the Kane, Daniel Bryan skits? Like a doctor or something?
Something like that, I think.
This is better. Santana and Ortiz beat two geeks. One with a powerbomb blockbuster combo was a fine squash.
Here's the thing with this match. They were super over as baby faces. So then it was Jericho's job to try to come on screen and get them booed. But the people loved Jericho. So he does his best. He cuts his promo. He issues
it was
challenge
great.
On behalf of LAX for a match versus the Young Bucks on November 9th at Full Gear. Everybody's cheering for him. And of course, when he comes out for the main event, everyone's chanting, "Thank you, Jericho." Like, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this or not. You probably are. He doesn't want to be cheered. He's actually trying to be a legitimate big-time heel, but he's kind of entering that all-time legend territory where people don't want to boo him.
Yeah.
So that's why you got the finish in the main event that we're going to get to.
Yes.
It was designed that way, just like when we watch these NWA shows from the 80s, and the Russian assassins are killing two geeks, and they still load the headbutt, even though they don't have to.
I'm kind of surprised you worked the Russian assassins into this review.
I did.
Twice
now.
That's a deep cut. So yes, I have said for a long time that even the main roster shows need more squash matches. This is a very good squash match and a very good way to introduce Santana and Ortiz to fans who had not seen them wrestle before. Thumbs up. And then Jericho's promo is just awesome. This is if you don't want to get booed, stop cutting great promos. Or if you do want to get booed, stop cutting great promos. They did something, I don't know exactly what they did. I'm not a film guy. If we had Mark here, he could probably tell us specifically what they did. But it looked like the frame rate was different to his promo, and like he's in focus, but the AEW in the background, AEW logo in the background is out of focus. It looked cool and different. His delivery is great. His content is great. Challenges the Young Bucks to face Santana and Ortiz at Full Gear. The only problem with this, and it's a huge problem, as he's talking, Ortiz is shouting something over and over again. The best or something.
I think their mic was supposed to be shut off, but it was left on. So that was a big faux pas.
That was a big problem. Otherwise, home run. We get a Cody Rhodes video package. First shot is kind of hokey. We're in the Rhodes kitchen. And Cody is at the counter, like with a coffee deep in thought. And Brandy comes in with a loaded schedule. And she goes over like 8 appointments they have that day. And asks him what he thinks. And he just looks at her and says, "That sounds fine." And he walks out. So the story is Cody is deep in training. He goes to the dark room, the float room, to clear his mind, to meditate, to focus on the upcoming match. He goes to the gym where he lifts heavy weights and runs on wacky treadmills. I've never seen the curved treadmill before. That was kind of cool. And meanwhile, we never heard from Cody in this package. We heard from Brandy, heard from Cody's mom, heard from DDP, MJF, JR, and Tony Schiavone. And they all had a lot to say about what this match meant to Cody. How he is both a competitor in the ring, but also an executive vice president. That's part of the story. It's part of his character. And he's a babyface, which is weird because Lord knows we've seen plenty of promotions over the years where the main event guy was also someone who had a lot of backstage power in real life and in character, but it's always the bad guy. So Cody's out here advertising his conflict of interest as the babyface, which is strange. And Paige talks about how there's something very special about winning your first world title. So apparently Cody's NWA world title does not count anymore.
Or ROH.
I didn't even know he'd won that. All right. Regardless, for all that said, this was very, very good stuff. And it made Cody come off like a star because he didn't have to talk for himself. Everyone else was talking for him. Britt Baker versus Rio. So for most of this match, I was hating it. I don't know what that chain wrestling, if you want to call it that, at the beginning was, where they sort of rolled over on top of each other over and over again and then just let go and no one knew what had happened. They just constantly take turns doing moves back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There is no heat. There is no story. There is no transition. There is no flow. There's nothing going on. It's just a spot fest, except it's very slow and the spots don't look good. Crowd is very, very forgiving of it. And I was not. I was in a bad mood. And then, like, the last minute, I changed my mind. This match was so much fun just because of the last 60 seconds. Britt kicks out of like 4 moves in a row, makes her big comeback, and she goes for her finish, and because she's a dentist, she uses the mandible claw, and because she's a dentist using a mandible claw, it's called the lockjaw. Brilliant! Take that person who should have named Tegan Knox's finisher the Shiniest Wizard after her braces, take that award and give it to this person who named Britt Baker's move the lockjaw. So they have an epic battle. It's an epic battle, and Britt's got the crossface on. She's trying to jam her fingers into Rio's mouth, and Rio knows if that happens, she's done, and she's fighting, scraping back and forth. This is a life and death struggle. And at the last minute, Rio reverses it into a cradle. She gets the pin. She is relieved. Britt is heartbroken. I totally turned around on this just because of the finish.
Well, this match started out with a dead crowd. And the crowd, I'll give them this. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, they would have been rude. But they were not rude.
No.
They just politely sat there. They weren't into it, but they just let them do their thing. So I actually rewrote my notes halfway through this match because I had been writing about how dead this crowd was and how nobody cared. And all of a sudden I had to go back and rewrite it. They were dead at the beginning, and then I don't know how, okay? Riho is fine. She's no Kairi Sane. She's no Io Shirai. She's no Asuka, okay? But something about her, these fans love. And she started her comeback, and all of a sudden, for no good reason, everybody cared. And she made her big comeback, and they did their near falls, and they did their finish. And when she cradled Britt Baker, this place went crazy. This was exactly like the match where she won the title, where the match is not very good, the fans don't care, but next thing you know, she's making her comeback, and then she wins the title, and the place comes unglued. 2 times in a row she's done this with someone who is green. Britt Baker has been in the business since 2016. She did all indies up until she got signed by AEW. And if you've ever been on the indie scene, especially a female on the indie scene,
yes,
you're not doing 4 matches a weekend. I mean, I don't know how many matches she's had, but it's probably between like 50 and 150. That is green. So, I just don't know what Riho has, but she's got something. And she managed to make this into like an exciting match there by the end. Now, the downside is they really want to do something with Britt Baker, but now that all of these people are signed to AEW deals and TV has started, like everyone's been pulled from the indies. How in the world do you improve with 1 show a week?
That's a fair question.
Do you know how long that's going to take? Like, I hope they've got some plan for house shows or getting some of these people out to work events here and there, because Britt has a long way to go if they want her to be like a big-time star in the division, work-wise. and it's going to be decades working one show a week. I say this from experience.
The Lucha Brothers in a tag team tournament match facing the Jurassic Express. And they used that team name even though Luchasaurus got hurt. And Marco Stunt took his place.
Yes.
From a dinosaur to a single-cell amoeba.
Basically.
So, a lot of people had very strong opinions about this match.
I'll get into that. Don't worry.
All I know is that I could not look away for 1 second. I was struggling to take notes, not because I had nothing to say, because I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen. For a lot of reasons, but mostly these Lucha Brothers. Is there any way, Brian, to siphon off and bottle some of their excess charisma that they're not using and redistribute it to some of the more boring, bland, pointless wrestlers we see around the world?
I wish I could say yes. It would be a better
because
business.
They have so much more charisma than they need. They're unbelievably awesome. Of course, very physically talented.
And they're masked.
And they are masked and face painted.
Yes.
And covered head to toe, really. They're unbelievably great. So, Aubrey is a fantastic referee. She is taking none of Pentagon Zero's shit. Pentagon Jr. shit. So they're doing this, and they're squashing these little fuckers. It's fine. And they go to commercial break. And they're doing the picture-in-picture commercial break, but I still skip these. If you can't hear the match, seeing little clips in a small window is not worth it. And you know for sure they're not going to do the finish or anything important during the commercial anyway. So I start to skip. But as I'm skipping, I say, wait, did I see what I think I saw? And I went back and rewound during the commercial. Now, I know Marco Stunt is the smallest wrestler you're ever going to see in a main roster anywhere. He is very, very short. And he is also very, very skinny. But Pentagon is not Mark Henry.
No. He's not very big.
When I see Pentagon Jr. pressing Marco over his head with one hand casually, it's not just that he held him up there. He's walking around. His expression is blank. This is the easiest lift a man has ever done. That was amazing. So, the match continues. I love that Jim Ross has been calling pro wrestling forever, and he knows how wacky pro wrestling can be, and AEW is some of the wackiest pro wrestling he's ever done, but he can't help himself. He cannot call this grown man Jungle Boy and leave it at that. It's Jungle Jack, or Jungle Jack Perry, because that's a better name, and you should be marketing this guy based on his the fame of his family's name. Jungle Jack every time. So, a bunch of stuff happens. There's a tag with both dudes in the ring, and the match just keeps going. Eventually, Marco is completely devastated, destroyed, ruined, and scattered to the wind. Pentagon breaks his arm. They do a stomping package pile driver. This is like the best match I ever saw or anything, but this was an unbelievable spectacle, is what this was.
So obviously everybody was in an outrage. Marco Stunt was in this match. And I had to hear a lot of very, very crazy things. He's going to kill the business. He's going to run off viewers. I had friends that were in the room and they left when they saw that Marco Stunt. As soon as I got the quarters today and I saw that there were 2 matches on the show that had an increase in ratings. Mm-hmm. 2. One was with all of the big stars, including Jon Moxley and Pac and
Kenny Omega
and Hangman. And the other was with Marco Stunt.
How about that?
Now, the absolute morons on the internet saw my tweet and concluded that I was saying that Marco Stunt was the reason this match did so well. So I went on a blocking spree, and I had to explain to people who are so stupid that the point is not that he was responsible. In no universe am I saying that Marco Stunt is the reason that was one of 2 segments on the show that grew its audience. My point is, he didn't run anyone off. Factually. Yes, I'm sure a couple of friends here and there walked in and saw Marco and left. But you know what? Statistically, nobody left. That's it. If you hate Marco Stunt, like I do. If you think this little twerp doesn't belong in this business, great. Knock yourselves out. But you can't go out there and make crazy claims that Marco Stunt is going to single-handedly kill AEW or run off viewers when we can look at these numbers and it's very clear that, in fact, that didn't happen. Now, other crazy people are going, my God, Darby Allin, he's a ratings killer. People have turned off the show twice when he's on. Dude, fans tuned out of every segment on this show except for 2. The reality of these ratings, everybody, is can y'all just shut up about it? We're 3 weeks in. It's going to be months before we know where AEW is going to settle and where NXT is going to settle. They ain't making any new stars off 1 week of television, and they ain't killing the business off 1 week of television. AEW is doing everything they can to try to get people over. They tried to make stars out of Private Party in one night last week. They tried to make stars out of Darby Allin in one night this week. They tried to make stars out of Scorpio Sky in one night this week. But it ain't gonna happen overnight. Has nobody paid any attention to how many times Raw has tried to hotshot the ratings? Raw, the #1 wrestling program in the world that millions of people have watched. They've tried to hotshot the ratings 1,000 times, and you can't turn it around in a week ever, no matter what. So I banned, I think, 4 people today who are just on the board, clearly trolling and trying to push everybody's buttons. Knock that off. If you do that, you're going to get a timeout. If you want to talk about your thoughts on this, or your thoughts on that, or your personal thoughts on Marco, or your personal thoughts on Darby, or whatever, knock yourself out. But can we all stop going crazy that Marco Stunt is going to kill the business, and Darby Allin is tanking AEW, and all of this other stupid stuff that people are saying? It's a waste of time. Now, Marco was never even supposed to be in this match. It was supposed to be the Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus apparently tore his hamstring. Marco Stunt and the Jungle Boy found out 2 hours before they got in the ring that they had to face the Lucha Brothers. They were probably scared out of their minds. So they went in there, they tried to figure this thing out. I know people say, my God, the match, like, whatever about the match, but it went too long. Dude, they timed out an entire show under the presumption that Luchasaurus was going to be in there. He wasn't in there. They could have tried to screw up everything on the show and take time away here and give time here and screw everything up, or they just say, you know what? Something went wrong.
Do your best.
Marco Stunt, you're in this match, and the match is getting 14 minutes. Just go out there, cross our fingers. You know what? The people loved the match by the end.
Yes.
And in the building, they were going crazy. It lost no viewers. The sky is not falling. The world is not ending. Everything is fine. Can y'all please go outside for a while? That's my speech.
The next match is the all-star match you're talking about that gained viewers.
What a great match.
Pac and Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. The best thing on either show by miles this week. This was a great tag match. The intensity of all 4 dudes from bell to bell was off the charts. Just an amazing tag team match. My one complaint, I have 2 complaints about the match, and one isn't even the fault of anyone involved here. Before AEW ever had a TV show, they talked about how important wins and losses were going to be. We're going to keep track of this. It's a sport, and it's going to matter who wins and loses. So it's the 3rd episode of Dynamite, and out comes Kenny Omega, the guy who you'd think they would build to being their headline guy. He's 2-3.
Yes.
He's lost more than he's won.
Yes, he's in a slump.
He is. He's fighting his way out of it. I guess by the end of this match, he was 3-3. But they're having this awesome match. Oh, my other thing I want to complain about, this goes back to more insane shit in the show. They get the heat on Hangman Page when he's in the top rope, and one of them, I don't know who I forget who, it doesn't matter, one of them shoves him, and he goes flying through the air and takes a flip bump onto the apron from the top rope.
Yes.
Don't do that. Nothing good can happen. You won't add 1 viewer, you won't add 1 rating point, you won't sell 1 ticket, you'll just hurt yourself.
Well, my bigger issue, and I feel bad because I always get on the Hangman. I have nothing against the Hangman.
He's just a guy.
He worked so hard in this match.
And looked so good.
And he looked great. But nobody cared about him when he came out.
Yes.
It was crickets. They went nuts for Moxley. They went nuts for Pac. They went nuts for Omega. And then they politely applauded the Hangman. Because we don't know a thing about him.
All true.
He rides a horse to the ring on big pay-per-view events. That's literally all you know about the guy.
He has a vest and a rope.
Not one single promo on national television or any of the previous pay-per-views that I can even think of. He may have done one on like a Fyter Fest. But what is going on? It was abundantly clear in this match. Nobody knows what to think about the Hangman. And this poor guy's out there, he's doing a moonsault off the post, he's bumping off the post onto the apron, he's freaking killing himself, and just looking great to crickets. And the other four guys are out there just tearing it up.
So they're having this great tag match, and it's great. Did I mention it was great? Because it's important you realize this was a great match anyway. And then they build to a four-way, and Pac and Hangman disappear for a bit, and suddenly Mox and Omega are going nose to nose and then fighting, and somehow it got 1,000,000 degrees greater. And now I cannot wait for their one-on-one match on pay-per-view.
This pay-per-view is going to do well.
Their fight was so good. I want to cry about how great this was. So they're having this awesome fight, and it's a fight. Believe you me, it's a fight. And then they decide these hands aren't enough, and each guy goes to get his weapon. And Kenny's got his barbed wire broom because he's the cleaner. And Moxley has a barbed wire bat because Kenny gave it to him. And they're ready to fight to the death. But Pac wants to win this match. He takes the broom away, throws it out of the ring. He takes the bat away so his guy doesn't get DQ'd, throws it out of the ring. He's screaming at Moxley to use your head. And Moxley don't give a fuck no more. He DDTs him and he storms out. See, this made sense because these guys have never been friends.
Dude, everything makes sense because you have 4 stars and they don't want to do cheap, lame finishes, and so somebody's got to do a job.
Yes.
All right, who does the job? Well, Pac's going to do the job here. So how do we beat Pac but protect him at least to a degree? Well, it's easy. He wants to win. His partner gets mad at him because, quite frankly, wins and losses matter, but not to Jon Moxley.
That's true.
Because he's a loose cannon. He doesn't care. So he boots this guy and DDTs him and leaves. And so Pac ends up 2-on-1 against the other guys, and they hit him with their moves and pin him.
That's what happened.
So there was a clean pin. Somebody got a win. Pac was defeated, but he has an out. And not only that, they set up a match for next week. This isn't hard, as the show proves. It can be done if you think about it for like 5 minutes. You don't just have to have a lame DQ because 2 guys were beating on Pac and the ref called for the bell because it was 2-on-1 in a tag match, which I saw on Raw like 3 weeks ago.
I would also add Pac was bleeding from
Actually,
the
I
hand.
saw it on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I had to pay for that finish.
Yes. Pac was bleeding from the hand because apparently they're using real barbed wire on these things, even just for these spots where they're not really used.
Yes.
So it ends. They hit the Deadeye, which is the over-the-back pile driver Hangman uses, and they pin Pac. And Tony Schiavone, we watched him on these Nitros 20 years ago, and it sounds like he's checking out of everything. 2 decades later, he's having the time of his life, and it fills me with such joy.
Yes. He's getting the last laugh.
That was an ass-kicking match, he says. This journey of Tony Schiavone, this is inspirational.
Yeah.
You can survive something like Nitro and come back and find your passion for life again.
Yes.
That is a great story.
Never give up.
Never give up. We got a bunch of matches for next week. Private Party versus the Lucha Brothers in one tag tournament semifinal. The Dark Order versus SCU in the other semifinal. Britt Baker returns to action in her hometown of Pittsburgh. The Young Bucks will be in action. And the main event, they didn't waste any time. Jon Moxley versus Pac.
Oh, what a battle
That's going to be awesome. I'm so happy Pac is here. It's all those years as Neville wasted. He's so much better here.
It's much better everywhere.
Touche. You got me there. He has been all over the world and been better. That is a great point. Chris Jericho versus Darby Allin for the AEW World Championship. So we've had a lot of negative things to say about both shows tonight. Matches too short, matches too long, not enough video packages, weird booking, not enough promos, whatever. Marco Stunt being in the ring for a long match. Nothing on either of these shows made me half as furious as Darby Allin's ring gear.
Of all things.
We're going to take the skinniest legged guy on the show, not named Marco, put him in tights and Daisy Dukes over him. He looked horrible.
You're 44.
Yes, Brian.
Well, a lot of their audiences.
And I have better legs than Darby Allin.
That's true.
So
He do some squats.
He badly needs to do some squats. So they're doing this match, and it's a very good match. And Jericho keeps getting the Boston Crab, which the announcers could not agree on which name to give it. So I'm just calling it a Boston Crab. And Darby keeps getting the ropes. And Aubrey, even though it's a street fight, she makes him break the hold. Fans are outraged, but there's a point to all this. Fans are chanting, it's a street fight. But Jericho says, well, it is a street fight. I have a plan. And Jericho gets under the ring and gets a roll of what they called gaffer's tape. And he gets the rear mount on Darby, and he puts his hands behind his back, and he tapes his hands together with a tape. So Darby now has no hands in this fight. And he's working him over a bit and bullying him and torturing him. And then Darby actually cuts him off and makes a comeback. And he really only did like 4 things. It's not like he was working Jericho over with no hands, but every single thing he did with no hands had me screaming in terror.
Yeah, but he pulled it all off.
He did, but again, if he did the big giant flip dive and he landed perfectly and landed with his back on top of Jericho and he rolled over to his feet and it was totally fine. But if he had not done it perfectly, he dies.
That's true.
He lands on his head.
You know how many times this guy's landed on his head skating?
You've got me there.
On concrete,
well,
half
yes.
pipes.
I'm sure falling on his head is
This guy's done this spot all over the place on the indies.
Okay. He did like that flip dive and a moonsault in the ring, like a big drop kick, and that was really it. And the crowd is unbelievable. This skinny-legged guy with no hands is going to beat Chris Jericho for the world title. He kicks a chair into Jericho's face and Jericho grabs it. And he goes up top to hit the coffin drop. And here's that dastardly Jake Hager to punch him in the face. And he falls down.
This damn Russian assassin. That's what this was. That's why I brought it up.
And Chris Jericho is Paul Jones.
Yes, Chris Jericho clearly could beat Darby Allin with 2 hands tied behind his back, but he still had his 6'6" heavy punch him just to be a dick.
Yes.
And then he won with his hold.
He put him in the crab, and finally he won. And the best part about all this guy is such an asshole. He took this little man, took away his hands so he couldn't defend himself, still cheated to win with the biggest guy on the whole show. This is his win, and he is so proud.
Yes.
And his crew comes out with the bubbly.
Yep. It's time for a celebration.
And they all have a giant party to celebrate the championship.
You beat a no-handed Darby Allin in Daisy Dukes.
That was awesome.
Yes. Like, the thing about this match is, yes, if you really wanted to, you could say, it's ridiculous that Darby Allin got this much offense on Chris Jericho and almost beat him. But that's not understanding pro wrestling. And I know people are going to get really mad that I said that, but too bad. People have watched so much WWE for so long that they don't even understand how to make a star anymore. Darby Allin was every Kofi Kingston with Randy Orton, every opponent Triple H ever had, all set to go against Chris Jericho here. If this would have been WWE, he would have gone in there and Chris Jericho would have taken most of the match and he would have beaten him and Darby would have went back to the mid-card. We've seen it 1,000 times to the point that people now think that's what wrestling is. That's not what wrestling is, okay? They see something in Darby. They want to make Darby a star. So they thought, what does Darby do best? Well, he takes a tremendous beating and doesn't give up, and he can do some really cool spots with no hands, and Chris Jericho can go in there and sell and sell and sell and sell and need help to win. And you know what? Maybe we'll get this guy over in one night. That was the whole plan. Does anybody who thinks that this was bad actually think that Chris Jericho is any less over than he was going into the show? Anybody? Seriously. Does anybody think Jericho is any less over?
I don't think so.
No. So if he's just as over as he was before, then this was perfect. They did everything they could to get Darby over, and it didn't hurt Chris Jericho one bit. This is how you try to build a star. I don't know if the guy's going to be a star next week, but I can at least say they tried. They tried their best. I love this.
Well, Brian, it's time to vote.
Well, this should be easy.
I think we both agree that All Elite Wrestling was, in fact, the superior show tonight.
Yes, I liked NXT.
I did like NXT.
I know that maybe we were hypercritical of it. I know that people don't like hypercritical in 2019, but too bad. That's this show. But yes, I thought that of the two, AEW was the better show. Doesn't mean that I hated NXT. Doesn't mean I don't like NXT. I'm a huge fan of NXT. I'm going to NXT live tomorrow.
That's right.
And I'm sure I'm going to have a fabulous time.
It's going to rule.
I'm very, very excited to go. But of the two, my vote this week is for AEW.
My vote also goes to All Elite Wrestling. They had the superior show the week of October 16th.
Well, there you go, everybody. We're going to wrap it up. That's it from here. I am not on Observer Live tomorrow. It's going to be Mike and Jim Valley. And then Jim Valley is also on SmackDown duty with Dave on Friday night, so I won't talk to everybody till the weekend. So